Thank you very much. All right, I'm Diane Garrett, President and CEO of Nickel Creek Platinum. Thank you very much, Jessica, and the entire Precious Metals Summit team for putting on this conference. And we're real excited this year because last year I think we were one of the only non-precious metals companies presenting, and it's really nice to have our colleagues with us as well. So our cautionary statement, excuse me. At Nickel Creek Platinum, we are located in the Yukon. We have one of the world's largest undeveloped nickel sulfide deposits. Very large scale, 2 billion pounds of nickel, just over 1 billion pounds of copper, 100 million ounces of cobalt, and just under 6 million ounces of platinum group metals and gold. We have a lot of payable metals, but this is a predominantly nickel sulfide project that will be what dictates the production decision. But we do have a meaningful amount of cobalt, and it makes this type of polymetallic very unusual given that we've got such a significant presence of platinum group metals and gold. They typically don't form this way. So we will get paid more for our nickel and our copper concentrates because of these other metals that have value and go along with that. These are the commodities for our future. We all have heard about the battery electric revolution. It is here, and it's here to stay. We have very large shareholder support led by Electrum Strategic Opportunities Fund at 26%, followed by Resource Capital Funds at 11%, and I'll talk to you more about that in a moment. And we've got a very strong technical team that's been doing a lot of good work over the last 2 years. Just to touch basically on what we're talking about in the electric vehicle market, it is predicted that 1 in 5 cars, 1 in 10 trucks, and 1 in 10 buses will be electric over the next decade. This is not just about powering our vehicles, but it's about powering our industry, everything associated with our lives, and as well as our homes. So this is something that we're going, that is being led through China and the EU. This is no longer just a preference if you want to drive an electric vehicle. This is legislated and mandated. These are policies in effect to eliminate internal combustion engines and reduce emission standards. So this is something that is a way of our lives. We all hear about lithium and cobalt, and those get a lot of attention. But I'm going to talk to you today about nickel because nickel by mass is the largest component of the electric batteries. In fact, Tesla says that we should call them nickel batteries because they're predominantly nickel, and they are. 70 to 80% of these batteries are nickel. And nickel is what gives the battery its energy density, so it gives it its power, and it gives it its ability to last long distances. I'm from Texas. I live in the middle of the state. I don't care what direction I drive. It takes me 8 hours to get out of the state of Texas. I'm not going to stop and charge up my car every 2 hours or hour and a half. So we're real excited about nickel coming in, and because it's what gives the longevity to be able to go longer distances on that same battery charge. There's been $100 billion allocated by the major car manufacturers specifically for the electric vehicle market, and half of that, almost half, $48 billion, is by Volkswagen alone. We're seeing all of the countries and the legislations that come into effect and making this a policy to reduce the internal combustion engine. So again, the electric revolution is here to stay. And nickel is the single biggest component by mass. About 70 to 80% of the batteries are nickel. We all understand that cobalt is predominantly supplied through the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And in order to reduce the supply risk and the security concerns of that source of supply, the new batteries now have reduced the amount of cobalt and increased the amount of nickel in those batteries. We always think of nickel as predominantly being a stainless steel mineral, and it is true because you cannot make stainless steel without nickel, but it also is a major component. But not all nickel is created equal. So you have the class 1 nickel, which is nickel sulfide projects, and those are the pure nickel plays that have the quality for the battery sector. The class 2 nickel is the type of nickel that you see in stainless steel. And one of the big challenges that we have right now in the nickel space is the fact that You have a lot of nickel supply in these Class 2 deposits coming online and putting pressure on the nickel prices, and that's not allowing these large nickel sulfide projects like ours to be developed in this commodity environment because we need higher prices. And the large nickel manufacturers are making a very strong push right now to bifurcate the nickel trading into Class 2 and Class 1 nickel, because everybody recognizes that there's very few of these Class 1 nickel sulfide projects of quality for the battery market, and they should trade at a higher premium. Otherwise, we're not going to see the supply coming online to meet the growing demand that we're going to have. Right now, 45,000 tons of nickel is consumed in the battery market, and that is expected to grow to over 450,000 tons over the next 5 years. So if the metals are truly bifurcated and we do see the Class 1 nickel trading separately, it should enjoy that higher price, which will be very good for the development of these assets. We also have a significant component of the platinum group metals, which is very rare to find in the Western Hemisphere, so it allows not only a precious metals, but a very significant strategic metal component to our company. And again, this is our shareholder base. We have a small float, Electrum owning 26%, followed by Resource Capital at 11%. Tocqueville, which is a predominantly gold investor, this is their one investment in the battery space. They do believe that nickel is a commodity to be exposed to over the next couple of years. We have a lot of private high net worth individuals, and I personally own 2 million shares, and I buy my stock in the open market, as you do. I need to comment, we've all had a bit of a hit in our share price over the last few months. The commodity markets are very tough. We took an additional hit recently, and that's because of some of the final work that we were doing on our engineering demonstrated we had a somewhat unusual relationship between sulfur and our nickel recoveries, and that meant that we are going to need somewhere north of $9 in order to make our project go. But it puts us right in the camp with all the other large nickel sulfide projects that also need similarly high nickel prices in order to develop. And I'm very pleased to say that none of our institutional shareholders sold during that time, and that is because they invest in a team such as ours, and also the money for the specific purpose to de-risk the project up front. We do all that work up front so that when the day comes and this mine is put into operation, we know exactly how it will operate and what it will produce, and all the risk will be taken care of before that day comes. We have a very strong board on our team, and I'd also like to mention that our Chief Operating Officer is Heather White. Heather was part of the design and build team of Voisey's Bay. She was their Chief Mine Engineer and then became the mine manager. She also was with Vale and handled all their worldwide nickel supply side operations. So she does understand nickel, and we're thrilled to have her on our team. So let's get specific to our project. We're located in the Yukon. We've all heard a number of stories here today that the significance of the Yukon and the attraction that it's getting from a lot of the majors, and particularly in the gold sector. This is a photograph of our project. Typically in the Yukon, you can be limited by access and infrastructure, but we have the best road possible courtesy of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We are right off the Alaska Highway, so that makes infrastructure very desirable for our project. If we overlay our system on top of the Wellgreen Mountain, then this is what it would look like. Another interesting feature to our nickel sulfide project is that it is an open pit. We have, we're gonna try, there we go. Okay, so the yellow line is the Alaska Highway. When I say we're right off the Alaska Highway, I mean it. There is a sign on the Alaska Highway that says turn left here for the Nickel Show project. You turn left and our base camp sits right in this area. Then we travel 14 kilometers by an all-weather, all-season access road to the project site. The idea is that we will be crushing in the open pit area, and then we will convey down, and our plant facilities would be in the lower lands there. What's beautiful about our project location is from here we can take the Alaska Highway all the way down to Haines and Skagway, which are two deep sea shipping ports. From there we have access to route of market to China, to Finland. We can rail to Sudbury, so we have excellent access. Again, just under 2 billion pounds of nickel, 6 million ounces of platinum and gold, 1 billion pounds of copper, and 107 million pounds of cobalt. The percentages at the bottom are the NSR values of this project by commodity. This is what our nickel looks like on the project. This is our grade shell at 0.2 nickel, and then for the copper, it's combined with the nickel. We have completed pilot plant metallurgical testing. We have physically produced concentrate, and we're very successful in separating nickel and copper concentrate. The beauty of that is that it allows us flexibility to sell to any smelter in the world. And we were able to reduce our MgO levels to a rate that we will not get penalized. We can produce, for the first time on this project, a saleable concentrate, and we have gotten bids from 3 smelters, so we do know that we can produce a quality saleable con. Over the last 2 years, this is the type of work we've been focused on: updating the geologic model, completing our infill drill program. We provided a new resource estimate. We just updated another one and announced that a couple of weeks ago. Our 43101 will be out within a week. We have advanced the metallurgy to the mini pilot plant stage. We have demonstrated successful nickel-copper separation. We've completed our internal mine planning. We've looked at optimization studies on throughput rates. Our baseline environmental studies continue on, and we'll be looking to identify other exploration targets, but we already have a resource that supports about a 20 to 25-year mine life, so we don't feel that additional exploration drilling right now is the best value for our shareholders. Thank you. And then we're also looking to evaluate other strategic opportunities. We believe this market is a buyer's market, and we think there's some attractive projects out there. And so with the financial support and backing of our big shareholders, we're also looking to see if there's anything that we may want to tuck in to our portfolio and build ourselves into a go-to vehicle for the battery market. Excuse me. The deposit itself in the Nickel Show project is about 2.5 kilometers in strike length, but it sits within an 18-kilometer trend of land that we control. This past summer, we did a significant geophysics program on the project. We first laid the geophysics over the known deposit to make sure that we were getting good signature reads and correlations for where we knew the mineralization was. And then we stepped out from the known deposit onto the exploration target areas. And we've identified some very good high priority targets that we'll be looking at for drilling. We have not found the feeder or the source of this system yet. It is a very large system, and so that's one of the things that our team is working on as we speak. When you look at the universe of nickel sulfide projects, everything in the orange is basically the explorers or those that are in the development stage. And what you should readily take away from this slide is that there's just very, very few of these Class 1 nickel sulfide projects to bring online. And you saw in the graphs earlier that we're going to have a deficit and a gap between the demand that's coming from the electric vehicle market and what the supply is going to be. And there's very few projects that are going to be able to fill that gap. Those that are in the light green are either owned by majors or they are privatized by governments, and some are already in production. So nickel is going to be a significant commodity to watch. I was at a conference earlier this year where they had one of the top engineers from BMW there, and they said, our concern is not about getting lithium, our concern is about getting enough nickel. And I think one of the things that you're going to see is that mining companies and battery manufacturers and car manufacturers are going to be interwoven in a way that we've never seen before within the commodity space. And those are our metals for the new economy, and I have 48 seconds left.
Any questions for Diane?
Well, I'll be around for the next 2 days, so thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the conference. Appreciate it.